Hello and welcome to another episode of Throttle Stop Garage. Alright, in this episode we're going to have a look at getting the rest of the sheet metal put in to the inside of the car. Alright, so in the last episode we got the floor put in, right? So the flat part's in. I actually still need to break that panel and put the turn in it. I haven't done that yet, I haven't got around to it. But we're going to get going and we need to put the pedal plate in that goes in behind the pedals. Of course, these are racing pedals. They're a Tilton 600 series, by the way, for those that are keeping track of the numbers. And there isn't any installation instructions. The installation instructions include that they should be mounted to a frame and very little else, right? There isn't even dimensions for the pedals, although I'm pretty sure I could look those up, but I had to measure them up. Anyway, so there's very little out there that I could find with reference to how to get these in my car properly. So I've done a bunch of just basic DIY bashing, and I haven't shown a lot of it in the previous episode or actually in this episode, the patterns and patterns and patterns that you have to make in order to get these done. So that's what we're going to be doing today. So think of it as part 2 of how to get racing pedals installed in your project car. All right, so with that, let the fun begin.
Okay, so just like everything else on this project, we start off with a collection of paper patterns and then we do the layout. So the part that's getting built right now is going to be the upper bracket to hold that the footboard. So it needs a reverse bend, and that wasn't easy to do. So I used my fancy dies again, and of course it was a little bit too wide to actually effectively get under those dies. Anyway, I got that done most of the way and then had to resort to the hammer and dolly to bash it out. So these little recurve parts are terrible. Then the one end of it to fit over a bulge in the firewall had to get cut and bent to fit. So once that's done, we're underway. So a little grinding, little sanding to get it done, and moving on. So paper pattern goes in first. Checked, rechecked, checked again, checked for about the 30th time. Oh, and I took there must have been 15 different times that this went in and out that I simply didn't show. You're welcome. Just kept going in and out. I test fit the pedals. I try to get everything fit properly. And we start refining the pattern a little bit, where the pedal's going to touch the board. We don't want that happening. And it's going to need a little bend, a little crease here and there. Where's it going to go? Just to show you this stuff doesn't just happen, right? Then there were all the measurements for the pedals that had to come up. And then try to find a reference, right? So once this is all done, I need a reference to build from. So there isn't much of anything other than that transmission tunnel. So working our way. Anyways, we finally get, I think, what is a paper pattern. Now, you'll notice I'm not actually getting much work done here. And it's because I already know that I don't like this. So I won't say too much more because that'll ruin the on-air piece in a minute. But I'm starting to do a lot of calculations. Right? Calculator comes out, start burning a few fingertips, making calculations, trying to check, just try to find some references for things, right? Like, how come it's not square? How come this isn't perfect? This should be perfect. Well, I figured it out in the end. Turns out making these patterns out of the paper sounds like a great idea, but it doesn't always turn out as perfectly as you'd like.
So you just watched as I've laid out with the paper pattern. I've probably been in and out of the car maybe 50 times with this. It's still not right. It fits, but because of the flex of the cardboard, right, and the floppiness of it, I didn't trust that the fit was going to be good enough. So I went ahead and did all the measurements, which I've shown, and I've got it now laid out on the aluminum sheet. You can see I've drawn in the pattern on the aluminum sheet. I'm not liking that either, actually. The problem is, I'm not too sure, like once the aluminum goes in, like there's no moving it around, and I actually don't have any other sheet, so it's got to be a one and done kind of thing. So it has to get done properly, or else it's not going to work. So my big fear is, as I'm doing it, I have to pick up a square off something. Now the top and the bottom lines, these two lines, the top and the bottom here, they should be parallel. Okay, they should be running in parallel, and they're not. So I've got to continue to refine this pattern even more. Again, once it goes to the hard material, you're not going to get a second chance. So what we're going to do now is I'm going to take this particular pattern, I'm going to lay it out on wood just to get rid of this flimsy curvy thing. Now if you like making patterns 3 or 4 times, just take your cardboard, smack it down, trace around it, and that's probably close enough. Again, I can't afford to make a mistake on this one, so fingers crossed. I've said it now, right? So if I make a mistake, that's my own fault for even admitting that it's going to be possible, but it's a thing. So let's get to work. We're going to lay this out. I'm going to see what I have around the shop for hardboard material. So it's either going to be hardboard or 1/4 or 1/8 inch plywood or whatever I can find this morning. Okay, so off to work I go.
So you can see I found a little bit of 1/4 inch plywood there that I've been using for a lot of years, and it's getting a little dog-eared. So I didn't mind using this to firm up this pattern. So again, I'm still suffering with not believing anything's right, but get that pattern cut out pretty quickly here just to give it a check. So once in the car, actually, I'm not too displeased with it. I'm checking for things that should be parallel there, and then just it pops right in. There's no problem. Of course, I need a bend to it so the pedals won't hit it. But I mean, I know that, but I just want to see it there. I wanted to feel it with my feet. Everything looked right. I still won't believe it though, right? So I've added that the little 3/8 came out there to add a little bit of stock to the edge in case I need to sand it away. And you'll find out it's a good thing I did that, because I did need to sand a bunch away. Now, I still don't believe where the pedals are placed. Like, they're not exactly perfect. So I'm now making those final adjustments to the pattern before I commit and cut it all out. So here's the last round of calculations. Like, this is the 3rd time that I did these. So this is the final refinement, right? Like, we're going to move these things just a few thousandths of an inch here and there, or 1/10 of a millimeter in order to make it work just right. I want these to be dead on. So there they are, getting themselves marked out. And now we're ready to go and drill the holes and use the jigsaw again to get the parts cut out. It takes no time to cut it out. So if you don't spend 10 times the amount of time working out where they're going to go relative to cutting it out, you've probably done it wrong. Alright, the jigsaw again makes quick work. Camera didn't work for a lot of that. Doesn't matter. There they are, cut out. It's no different than the plywood. And then there's lots of like sanding and fettling of the insides of these things just to make them nicely deburred and to see how it goes. I haven't put the curve in the panel yet. Just starting that, and we'll just chuck it in the hole and see how it works. I liked it, so out comes the brake. I don't know where these curves are going to go exactly, and working back in time, I'd wish I'd measured these a little bit more closely, but just snuck a little curve into the panel. I had to change some parts around, but it's coming in nicely, so I'm just adding the final details and doing the sanding there and giving myself some nice clearances.
Okay, that's a wrap, folks. We're going to finish it there for the weekend, and got the floor in, actually, so I'm pretty pleased with that. There was a lot of fiddling and sanding and reshaping parts, so I added the curve to that panel simply to account for the pedal articulation, right? So the pedals have to have parts that get out of the way. And it worked out great. So there's still finish work left in it. Like, I need to get the screw holes put in it, and the weld nuts and other things put into the brackets and other things that go in place, as well as I need to build the curved brackets now to support the side. And the last part of the whole driver's side will be a dead pedal of some sort. I haven't sorted that out yet, or how it's going in, so I'll get to that. I guess that'll be work for a later episode. All right, let's just go inside the car and have a look at how it all finished up. Okay, so that's the final finish. That's how it looks. It's just actually held in with some really good, strong, rare magnets in there right now. So you can see why I put the curve in, right? So the pedals now have lots of room. Once it's upholstered and the carpets and things are in, it'll cover over most of the bigger holes. But that does allow the pedal part to come out, like the pedal cover to come out in one piece, without having to remove the pedals themselves. So I've got the right kind of clearance that I wanted all the way around. It'll stop dirt and crap from falling in behind and fouling up my cluster. I still have to fit the balance bar adjuster, but I have plans on that going underneath the floor somehow. Anyway, so that's what it looks like in place. Still leaving, of course, the white plastic covering on everything as much as I can until the holes and everything are finally drilled. I'm leaving it alone so I don't scratch it. Again, it feels really good to make a little bit of progress on the weekend and get that project wrapped up. Looking forward to whatever's next, right? I'm not stuck for projects. I still have a whole car to do, but there's a bunch of things that kind of could happen, and I'm not too sure what's going to happen next. But anyway, please like and subscribe. I do appreciate all the views, all the comments, and all the feedback that I'm getting. So I really appreciate you coming along for the ride, and I hope you've enjoyed another episode, and we'll catch you on the next episode.